Hello, everybody. It's Millennial Mike, and I am very pleased to tell you that I have watched the Snyder Cut. I watched it. Uh, I watched the Snyder Cut. I watched the Snyder Cut. Can you believe it? It's crazy. I know it's kind of cringe, but hey, I don't care. I watched the Snyder Cut. I'm untouchable. But no, really, I want to talk a little bit about it. Non-spoiler thoughts. There's a lot to be said. I'm not trying to say everything, but I just want to hype things up a little bit. Get you guys even more excited, if that's even possible, to see this movie, and kind of just express some of my thoughts about or around the movie. So it was funny because originally, when I having seen it, the environment, the events leading up to it were pretty crazy, pretty hectic. They were having an issue sending out the codes to get to watch it early. And I was going to be patient, although I didn't really have a choice. I was pacing back and forth. I wasn't going to sleep. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to sleep anyway, so you might as well release it tonight. So that way, if I don't sleep, at least I could not sleep and watch this movie for 4 hours, And that's what ended up happening. They released it at like 11:15, 11:20 or something like that. I ended up finishing around 3 something, almost 4. And of course, all that in your head, you can't just fall asleep on that. So I didn't go to sleep right away. So I basically didn't get any sleep last night. But it's just kind of funny how even up to the very moment of them releasing it, there were still so many problems, so many issues. I really hope that for the benefit of everyone who's going to be watching it coming, well, by the time you're watching this, it might be tomorrow. I'm recording this Tuesday night, but by the time everyone gets to actually watch it, hopefully that HBO, Warner Brothers, Warner Media, AT&T, Microsoft, Azure, whatever, who's responsible for this whole rollout, I hope that you guys get a smooth, seamless experience where you get to just focus on just being hyped and enjoying the movie and not having to worry about all this crazy nonsense that we had to deal with. But I know it sounds like very entitled, oh, you got to see it early, but it's like, I'm actually, that was a relatively small rollout. I'm actually hoping that it's not that way for a much bigger rollout. That's my main concern, is that for all of us getting to watch it together, hopefully it's as smooth and as seamless as it should be, as it could be. As far as the movie itself, there's a lot of things that can be said, and I know a lot of it's going to be said, and it's going to take a long time for us to unpack this movie, find out how Man of Steel, BVS all connects to this, how it ties in with his overall vision and all the themes within and without, and all the different symbols and everything that he likes to put into his movies. This is going to be an investigation that's going to last a long time. So my job isn't to just break down the entire movie, especially having only seen it once. As we all know, watching a movie a single time, most of the time isn't doing it justice. And especially a movie from Zack Snyder. And especially this movie from Zack Snyder. It's, I'm trying to think in my head, like, okay, where does this movie sit in his filmography, especially with the DC movies? And I've heard a lot of people talking about how this movie is kind of like the accessible movie and whatnot, and how he gave the fans, or he gave people, the average viewer, what they want. And, or maybe he caved, or he relented, or this is what his plan was. And regardless of that, I mean, I don't really care. I really don't. I've always wanted to see a film that was just true to his own sensibilities, which is clearly is. And what are his sensibilities? You know, what are they? Well, most people would agree, the visuals, right? He has a very unique visual style. The way he edits things, the way that he paces his movies, the way that he includes dialogue, and the way he includes visual symbolisms and slow, you know, way he speeds and slows things up, and you know, you call that speed ramping, and all these different factors kind of, and others, even the way he tells his stories, you know, the themes in the movies are also very much in keeping with Snyder mythology. He likes to draw upon mythology a lot as well. So are those things in this movie? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, more than ever. I think we got used to a time after the Dark Knight movies came out where things were very heavy. They had a certain flavor. You know, I'm really trying to avoid using the word tone because I hate that word. It's like tone. It's like whatever. It's like the tone is just whatever the movie is. All the different aspects of the movie come together, and whatever that the average, you know, feeling, the average, you know, tone of the movie is that's the tone. So it's really, I don't care what the tone is, you know. The tone is whatever the story calls for at that time, and how you feel about it is, you know, how you feel about it. You know, I feel all sorts of ways about his movies, not just good or bad or anything. I feel depending on the situation. So to kind of, I kind of got a little bit, you know, sideways there, but what I was mentioning is I don't think that this movie is like purposefully accessible. I don't necessarily think that was the case. You have a situation here where he spent all the time, or a lot of the time, building these characters up, particularly Superman. You know, Superman has had Man of Steel and Batman v Superman to build up his character. And he's done so in a he's used his time very economically, very economically. So it's not just the fact that, oh, you know, he had 2 whole entire movies to build the, it's not about how many movies, how many hours, how many lines of dialogue, you know, that these characters have had. It's about where they've come as characters and how they got there. Every scene, every interaction, every line of dialogue, all these different factors come together and they make well-built characters. And Superman is a well-built character by this time. So when you watch this movie, you might be like, Superman really, you know, he actually isn't in this movie as much as maybe I thought. You know, that's not a spoiler, I don't believe. And he wasn't in the last movie as much either, but no one really was, if you know what I'm saying. You know, Batman, he's also had BVS to really develop. I mean, a lot of Batman v Superman's story was about building up Batman's ideology and like showing where he's come and where he's at now. And when you watch this movie, it's very much in keeping, you know, with that. So it's not like you don't have to build from the ground up. You don't have to explain. You don't have to like really flesh that out. It's more about just kind of carrying it forward. So now, and that's how most team up movies are. And I think that Zack really pretty much does it. This is the team up movie. Now, the thing about it is that he does get to integrate a lot of the same themes that were really familiar with and that we come to have loved with him and in his movies into this. So I don't necessarily say that like this is like a purposefully accessible movie, but I think it's just naturally accessible because the story is less about laying down all the groundwork and really like deconstructing these characters. This is not a deconstruction. Man of Steel to a certain point was a deconstruction. Who is Superman? Why is he the way that he is? Batman v Superman was a further deconstruction of Superman and Batman. That's the thing that people don't like. And this is not really, there are some deconstructive elements of this, I would say, but they're not quite as overt as in past movies. So let me just get to the point. So to answer the question, was this movie like purposefully accessible? Was it like, was it accessible in spite of what the movie could have been or should have been? No, it's not. I think it just happens to be, this seems to be a very natural progression of the story, of this 5-part arc. And hey, if we get Justice League 2 and 3, I have a very strong feeling that he's going to have a lot of opportunities to bring us back to that very uncomfortable spot that many people felt in Man of Steel and BVS. And there was a lot of, this movie felt very joyous in a lot of ways because it's about resurrection and rebirth and about coming together and being strong. It's about feeling comfortable with who you are and living up to the ideals that you espouse, and about striving for it and about hitting that, that spot. Flash, Wonder Woman, all these characters had these moments where it's like, wow, this is what they can really be. This is like them at their ultimate. And there's less doubt and there's more do. And that makes a lot of sense. I'm not, at this point, it would feel a little bit strange if there's still, there's still of course doubts, but it's not like that's not part of the core storytelling of the movie. So I feel like I've kind of beat that horse a little bit. This movie is what it needs to be. It offers a lot of emotional catharsis, a lot of resolving of stories from the past movies that we've seen, episodes, if you will. And there was some building up of characters like Cyborg, very sentimental story. Flash also had a lot of sentimentality to his story as well. And the visuals and the music and just these scenes, whether they play along with a lot of the music he uses are either score or even soundtrack. It's done so powerfully and so emotionally, so sentimentally, and it's, when you watch it, it's like awe-inspiring, but in the way that your jaw is not just dropping, but it's like it brings tears to your eyes almost, because it's like, man, like this is just so touching. It's so moving, the way that they're showing these characters. It feels like the person who is expressing these characters really loves these characters, and they're never made out to be, and this is how it's always been, but even more so in this, I believe they're never made out to be a joke. Like, oh, it's just superheroes. Like, don't take it so seriously. There's laser beams shooting out of their eyes. It's dumb. We all know it's dumb. Let's just have fun with it. Like, it's not. They're not playing monkey in the middle with these characters. So to speak. So, I really, there was so much like just jubilation and this hope and in a real way in these characters. Well, I wouldn't even say, I actually should correct that. Not so much hope, but maybe a realization. Jubilation is the perfect word. It's like there was hope when it was really dark, or when it was very heavy, or when it was very hopeless, or when there was very complicated. There was a lot of hope there. This idea that you can make it past this. And then now they're meeting their issues at this level. They're meeting it at this level, and they're confronting it. And this is like, like a battle on equal footing. It's not like, oh man, like we're fighting against this against this thing that we have nothing, like we can do this, we've gotten this far, we fought this far, we have to do this, you know. The age of heroes never come, you know, again, I never thought it has to. We are going to do this. Saying that has a certain level of confidence that goes beyond just hope. And we've already gotten past the hope spot. And that's something that I think actually goes against what a lot of people are going to say this is very hopeful. And what they mean by that is it's very confident, it's very joyous, it's very strong, it's very, you know, it's very powerful in that way. And that's what a lot of people want to see. They want to see this kind of power fantasy in these characters. And I think that this in some ways gives some of that. But what it gives in that power fantasy, it also kind of evens out with this sentimentality and vulnerability, and you know, all these pains and these frustrations and these sorrows are still there, but they now inform the characters, and we get to see that, and it's great. It's so great. You know, you couldn't have that if there wasn't this really difficult time. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We're going to see some real heroism going forward, even beyond, like there was definitely some of that in here. The last part of this movie is called Something Darker. And when you watch this movie, there's going to be things you're going to see, obviously, that allude to what that is. And it's going to, it makes the stakes high. It makes it very, you're like, oh, this is the last thing? Like, wow, that's really disconcerting. And just to think, like, you know, everyone thought the BVS was dark, you know. So anyway, this is just some of my thoughts. I didn't want to talk directly about the movie so much as I want to talk more about, I guess, the response to it and my feelings and my general impressions of, you know, why this is happening the way it is and what's going to become of this, you know, more kind of surrounding things. So yeah, it's great to start talking about Snyder movies again, to analyze them. I love doing this so much. I hope to do it more in the future. And hopefully I haven't run on too long with this. But anyway, if you got into the movie, DM me. DM me on Vero. I'll try to put my Vero in the description, or, you know, don't spoil it. It's coming out in like a day and a half, like almost 1 day from now. So let's try to, you know, work together here and give everyone the most optimal viewing experience possible. Thank you guys for watching my channel. As always, if you subscribed, I appreciate it. If you know, rung the bell, if you're pining and waiting for more Millennial Mike content, I really appreciate that as well. It means a lot to me, and hope to see you guys in the future. So in the meantime, you guys enjoy the Snyder Cut, and I'll see you next time. Millennial Mike out.